Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our sessions for parents. My name is Claudia. I just want to give it a minute or so to see if someone else is joining us today. Again, thank you for being here this evening. This is the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. We're doing these sessions for parents, so hopefully there is other joining us. Okay, so I'm going to get started. Again, my name is Claudia Aly. I am a parent outreach coordinator with the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, or ISAC. Today, I will be talking about the financial aid process, but for the most part, I will be talking about the what is FAFSA, what is the alternative app, the different financial aid that the students are applying to with one or the other application. I'm going to be focusing a lot about explaining about grants, work study, student loans, and then what are those sources of financial aid. But before I begin, I want to remind you this session, it's being recorded and it will be available in our YouTube page. If you have questions during this session, you can use the chat or the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. If you have questions later, you can get in contact with us via text message. So we have the ISAC College Q&A service, which is a free text messaging service where either you or your student can send us your question. And then I will be sharing that number in the chat. So I usually start with talking a little bit about ISAC, our agency, the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, for those who are joining us for the first time. So ISAC is a college access and financial aid agency here in the state of Illinois that administers scholarships, grants, prepaid tuition, and the student loan repayment and forgiveness programs. And our mission is basically to provide information to Illinois students and information and assistance to help make education beyond high school accessible and affordable. And so I did mention that I am a parent outreach coordinator. So I basically work with parents, helping them in the college application process, or helping them basically understand the financial aid application. So within the agency, we have other services as well, services and support for students. But again, today, these sessions are meant for parents so they can better support their students. So even though this session is meant for all parents, in particular, we want to emphasize that this is for those parents who have senior high school students who are preparing to apply for the financial aid during their senior year. As a parent, you might be having questions about, how much college costs, can we afford college, what is financial aid, and when or how the students apply for this financial aid. So I hope after today's session, you have a basic idea of the financial aid process, so you can, again, better support your student. This is the main purpose of these sessions. And so to begin, I wanted to start defining or talking about what is financial aid, right? So financial aid refers to the money that is going to help you pay for college, right? So basically makes college affordable. It helps cover the gap between what you can afford to pay and the actual cost of college. And these money basically come from different sources. So there is federal funds, right? So it is these funds are administered by the Department of Education. There are state grants, and this is administered by ISAC, or the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. The other source of financial aid is colleges and universities. So they have their own funding that they can provide to students in the form of grants or scholarships. And then there is also private sources of financial aid. So scholarships coming from businesses or agencies to access these private funds. There are different eligibility requirements and deadlines to apply. So for today's sessions, I'm going to focus mainly on the grants at the federal, state level, and then the student loans. Because mainly I want to focus on what is the student applying to when they complete the FAFSA or when they complete the alternative app. So to begin, I want to talk a little bit about what is FAFSA, right? So FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So this is an application that is available at no cost. It's free. This application is used to apply for federal financial aid programs. And here in the state of Illinois, it is also used to apply for state financial aid, such as the MAP grant. So also, some colleges use the FAFSA to award their institutional aid. So sometimes students don't complete the FAFSA, but just know that it is a requirement for high school graduation. Sometimes they don't apply because they assume that they're not going to be eligible. But again, if the student is applying for scholarship through the college, they will be asking you to complete the financial aid application first. And then through FAFSA, again, I want to focus about what are those programs that the student is applying to, right? So there, within the FAFSA, there are grants, there is student loans, and the federal work study as well. So when we talk about grants, we're talking about federal grants and the state grant, as I mentioned. So what are those grants? So usually they're need-based. So there is nothing to do with students' grades, right? So I have some parents who are usually concerned about their students' grade. But again, this is need-based money. So students will need to provide information on their parents' finances as well as theirs if they work. There are grants, again, from federal and state programs, as well as from colleges and universities. But again, for the purpose of this session, I will focus on the grants at the federal and state level. And then the funding may be limited, right? So it will depend on the grant. Again, through FAFSA, the student is basically applying for the Illinois Monetary Work Program, which is the MAP, and the maximum amount a student can be eligible to receive is $8,064 per year. Then at the federal level, there is the Pell Grant, which is $7,395 per year. So if we combine those two grants, the student can receive up to a little bit over $15,000 a year. And again, all by applying through the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or the FAFSA. Again, those are the two grants that the student is applying to. Through FAFSA, the student is also being considered for federal student loans. Like any other loan, they must be repaid. The students are responsible for repaying these loans since they're the applicants, right? So sometimes I have parents who are concerned about not wanting get student loans, but again, these are loans for their children, right? So the applicant is the student will be responsible for these student loans. And it is also very important to learn about these loans, right? So it's not, these federal student loans are different from private student loans. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well, so you guys have a better understanding of these loans. And then there is a maximum borrowing limits in terms of how much the student will be getting in terms of loans. When looking at these loans, be aware these are federal student loans, but there is also private, as I just mentioned. The interest rate for this loan is fixed. Right now, I believe the interest rate is 6.4%. At the federal level, there are two different student loans, subsidized and unsubsidized, and I will cover a little bit more information on those two. So you have more information on them. And then the students are not required to make any payments while attending college, at least part-time, right? So these are kind of like the benefits of the student loans. So what are the difference between these two loans, right? So direct subsidized loan is need-based. The interest is paid by the federal government while the student is enrolled in school at least half time. So the student will not be required to make payments, right? But just be aware that when the student graduates, the grace period is about 6 months to start making those payments. So as an example, if the student obtain a student loan for $10,000, the student will owe those $10,000 because the government paid for the interest rate, right? On the other hand, the direct unsubsidized loan is not need-based, and the student is always responsible for paying that interest rate. So again, if the student obtained that student loan for another $10,000, and the student didn't make any payment during the time that they were in school, they're going to owe those $10,000 plus whatever the interest that accrued during all that time. So it is important to keep those things in mind. So I always tell the families, if you need to get a student loan, it's the best option is to get the subsidized loan. Now, in terms of the federal work study, so this is a need-based employment program. Not all schools offer this program, but again, if the student is eligible by completing the FAFSA, the student will be notified if they have that option at the school, and also if the student is eligible to receive these funds as well. The student must earn these funds, meaning that the student, if the student is eligible to receive these funds, the student is responsible for finding a job on campus, and also these funds are limited. This is on a first come, first serve basis, and this is a campus-based program. So again, this is only available at participating institutions. Not all institutions have this this program. But I think this is a great opportunity for your students to get that experience, right? And using some of the quote unquote free time that they have, right? So we as parents, we want to take advantage of the time that they have to study for tests, to read materials that they need to complete. But again, if they have the opportunity to work through the federal work study program, this is a good opportunity for them while they attend college. And then now, we have another application. So the FAFSA, it's an application for students who are U.S. Citizens or U.S. Or they have a permanent resident card. But also here in the state of Illinois, we have the alternative application for Illinois financial aid, or the alternative app. This application is very similar to FAFSA. It's also available at no cost. This application is only for state financial aid. In other words, the student is applying for the MEP grant. This is only for qualifying undocumented students. And so there is a certain requirement that the student must meet. And for that, I will provide the link for more information on that. And similar to FAFSA, some colleges and universities uses this application for them to award their institutional aid. How does the student or the parent access or sign the online FAFSA or alternative app? So to begin with the FAFSA, so the student and the parent will need an FSA ID, or what is known now as the FSA, the studentaid.gov account. Again, this is needed to access the FAFSA, to sign the FAFSA electronically, and for parents who are married and file their taxes together. So only one of the parents is required to do the account, as well as the student. If the parents are married but they file taxes separately, then both of the parents are required to have that account. The FSA ID or the studentaid.gov account is needed every year to apply for FAFSA, because this application is an application that the student has to be completing every year. So I usually suggest to save this account or this information with your taxes, because that's what you're going to need every year. And then for those parents who do not have a social security number, they can still create their account. Now, for the alternative app, which is the application for undocumented students, there is a personal identification number, or a PIN, that will be needed to sign the application electronically. Students and parents will have their own PIN, and the PIN will be generated and sent via email by us, by ISAC. And then this PIN will be needed every year, as well as the studentaid.gov account that the students need for the FAFSA. So the same thing with the PIN. So they will need it for the alternative app every year. And then to obtain this PIN, parents only need to provide their email. What information will be needed for the FAFSA? So for the FAFSA, the student social security number will be needed, the alien registration number if the student is not a U.S. citizen. They will need federal tax returns. So for the 2026-27 FAFSA, the student will need the 2024 taxes. They're going to need the W-2s and other records of income, banking statements, and records of investments. They're going to need the records of untaxed income, and then the list of the colleges the student would like to attend. So those are the things that are going to be needed for FAFSA. If the student is completing the alternative app, the same thing is going to be needed, except that the student is not going to need a social security number, right? Because the alternative app is for undocumented students, and they will not need, obviously, the alien registration number, right? So again, they will need the tax return 2024, banking statements, records of untaxed income, and then the list of the colleges the student would like to attend. Again, these are two different applications, but both of them are used to see if the student is eligible to receive any financial aid. Just to differentiate from one and the other, the FAFSA, the student is applying for federal and state financial aid, and then the alternative app is only for state financial aid. The scholarships is another type of financial aid, not necessarily included on the FAFSA, but most colleges require the FAFSA in order for them to award any institutional aid in the form of a scholarship. These can be need-based, or it could be merit-based, but not always. It could also be because the student has an athletic ability, artistic talent. It could be because of their background or any other attributes the student may have. So the eligibility varies by scholarship program, right? So there are scholarships through the institution, but there's also private scholarships, and they each have their own criteria. The students can start searching for scholarships at any time. They don't have to wait until senior year. I know I mentioned that this session, we are focusing for those parents who have senior high school students, but I always suggest to start looking into these scholarship opportunities early on. You don't have to wait until senior year to start with this research. So basically, to summarize what I just talked about, if we think about the process of financial aid. So the student has to complete the FAFSA or the alternative app as soon as possible after the filing period begins. So usually it's October 1st. The applications are available now. So they were available since last week. FAFSA, again, is for U.S. citizens and eligible non-citizens. The alternative app is for qualified undocumented students. Important to keep track of deadlines, reapply every year. Again, this is not a one-time application, so students usually start on their senior year, and then every year that they will be attending college, they are supposed to complete this application. Again, I mentioned that these application is usually available on October 1st. So I usually suggest to recommend families to apply as soon as possible. If anything, I always say just get it done before the Christmas break, right? And then also pay attention on the deadlines for the colleges. Even though there's no deadline to complete the FAFSA, some colleges have an actual date that they would want the student to complete the FAFSA or the alternative app to be considered for financial aid. So just pay attention to that. I usually get the question like, when is the deadline for FAFSA? Again, there is no deadline, but the colleges have their own deadline in order to consider your students for financial aid. Make sure to complete other forms if it is required by colleges. So again, this is just part of the financial aid process, right? Completing the FAFSA or the alternative app. But then if the college has a different scholarship, they might require additional information. They might require additional documentation. So just make sure that your student follows up with the college once the college provides a financial aid offer to the student. So if we think about the overview of the financial aid process, so again, the student will complete a financial aid application, FAFSA or the alternative app. Once the application is processed, that information is going to be sent to the colleges the student listed under FAFSA. If the student is selected for verification, it's a process that is completely normal. It is just important for the student to provide additional information the college is requesting, and turn in those requirements on time. Once that process is completed, the student will receive financial aid offers from those colleges the student included on their FAFSA. And then with their family, they will review those financial aid offers. They will respond to colleges and then complete again all the pending processes, right? So that's in a nutshell what the overview of the financial aid process is. If you have questions, concerns, like I mentioned, I work with parents. We are going to provide a number where you can text me, or you can find your ISAC core member in your area, and they can also help your students. In terms of trusted websites, I will be sharing that in the chat as well, just to stay up to date with the most recent information. Again, these are trusted sources of information. And for the most part, you can always visit the studentaid.gov. That's where we get all of our information that is up to date. And with that, I will check the chat to see if there is any questions. But again, I also want to share some of the resources, some of the links that I think are important. And again, these are trusted websites that you and your student can use. So I will be sharing this. One of the things that I did not mention, so if your student needs assistance completing the application FAFSA or alternative app, we have an option to do a virtual appointment. If you prefer an in-person, we can always do that. Again, we have all these resources. We have the support for your student. I will also be sharing the link where you and your student can create your account. Again, this account is what it used to be, the FSA ID. Now, a lot of people refer to it as the studentaid.gov account. And then I will also be sharing some resources or the student portal where the student can find resources as well. Okay, so I will check and see if there is any questions. Okay. Okay, so this just to clarify, for this financial aid, anyone can apply to it. And one of the things that I usually suggest to parents is that community colleges could be another option since they're more affordable. And I know that at least here in the city of Chicago, the 7 community colleges, if the student has a GPA of a 3.0 and above, they have a scholarship that will cover the first 2 years. So that would be another option. I'm not sure where this person who is concerned located, but that would be another thing to investigate through your community college. Okay, so I know I did not cover about what is needed or what are the different questions that are in the FAFSA. But again, if anyone needs assistance, you can reach me via text message. So I will put the number here. Okay. Yes, so again, we have that option of virtual appointments. You can go to the website I shared, make an appointment there, and then if there is a need of having an in-person meeting, our staff is also available for that. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, this is our first session for the school year. We have decided that we will be having 2 more sessions. So there will be one in November and one in December. And this will conclude the first part of the school year. And then starting New Year's, we will have some other sessions. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you the next time. Thank you.